Las Vegas Sayadaw Origination of Matter today is June 6, 1998. We will be discussing origination of matter. When matter arises, it has four causes or conditions. Rupa, material phenomena, arise from kama, from citta, from utu, seasonal condition or temperature, and from ahara, food. These are the four causes. Kama means satana, or volition. Satana is one of the universal mental factors, right? It associates with all types of consciousness. But, in this context, katana/kama is connected to 25 types of moral and immoral consciousness, not all of them. Cetana/volition, here, is associated with just moral and immoral consciousness. We have 8 kinds of moral, beautiful, wholesome consciousness, right? We also have 5 types of form-sphere wholesome consciousness. So moral here means these 13 types of consciousness. Immoral means the 12 types of unwholesome consciousness. Q. You can't have formless consciousness, right? Right. The 13 types of moral consciousness and the 12 types of immoral consciousness total 25 types of consciousness. What this means here is that satana, kama, or volition, associating with these 25 types of consciousness is called kama. It is this kama that produces matter, or material phenomena. Our eye sensitivity, ear sensitivity, nose sensitivity, tongue sensitivity, body sensitivity, sex and heart are because of kama. Kama produces this matter. This is what is meant by rupa depending on kama. Some people have good eyes, right? It depends on a being's wholesome or unwholesome kama. Some people have good ears or good tongue sensitivity, right? And some people have good hearts, free of disease. On the other hand, some people have eye problems or ear problems, right? Some beings are male and some beings are female. Why? Because of kama. Kama produces male or female. What about jivita, or life faculty? Some beings have long lives, and some have short lives. Why? Kama. Kama produces matter. 196. Analysis of matter. We are talking here about cetana, or volition, associating with these 25 types of consciousness. This produces matter. At every moment, and every sub-moment, commencing at conception, that is, when we took relinking consciousness, patisandhi, rupa born of kama arises. Since conception, and until the end of life, every moment is like the flame of a lamp rupa, born of kama arises. Kita. Some matter arises from mind. This is very interesting. How many types of consciousness do we have? 89 briefly, right? Broadly, we have 121 types. Here, we'll be talking about 75 types of consciousness. These 75 types of citta, mind, can produce rupa. Among the 89 types of consciousness, we exclude the 4 types of formless sphere resultant consciousness and the 10 types of twice fivefold cognitive sense impressions. What is the function of the 4 types of formless sphere resultant consciousness? Vipaka. They serve the purpose of patisandhi, bhavanga, and kuti in the formless sphere where there is no matter. These 4 types of formless sphere resultant consciousness cannot produce any matter. That's why we exclude these 4 types of consciousness. What about the 5 sense impressions? We have 2 types of eye consciousness, 2 types of ear consciousness, 2 types of nose consciousness, 2 types of tongue consciousness, and 2 types of body consciousness, right? These are called twice fivefold cognition, or 5 sense impressions. They cannot produce any matter either. So excluding these 14 types of consciousness, the remaining 75 types of consciousness can produce material phenomena born of citta. From when? From the first moment of life continuum, just as it arises. After patisandhi there is bhavanga, right? So it happens precisely when the first bhavanga begins. We have many bhavanga during the course of our lives, right? So, after Patisandhi, there is the first moment of life continuum. Just as it arises, there is Rupa born of Citta. Perhaps I need to explain this a bit more. Within a thought moment, there are three minor instances, right? There is Upada, arising, Thiti, continuation, and Bhanga, cessation. At the time of Upada, Rupa born of Citta arises. Why? Because the strongest moment of Citta is when it arises. At every moment of arising, these Kata 197 Las Vegas Sayadaw produce Rupa. Then, with another thought moment, another matter arises at Upada. Why? Because our mind is strongest at the moment when it arises. As for matter, it also has three minor instances, but Rupa has Thiti, static moment, as its strongest moment. Why? Because Upada is merely arising, and Bhanga is cessation. They don't have power, but Thiti consists of the 49 minor instances between Upada and Bhanga. The lifespan of matter is 17 thought moments. One thought moment is 3 minor instances, so 17 multiplied by 3 is 51 minor instances. Subtract 1 Upada and 1 Bhanga, and the remaining 49 sub-instances are the strongest time for Rupa. For mind, though, it's Upada, as it arises. Let's talk now about the 75 types of consciousness that produce Rupa. Among them are the 26 types of sublime jivana. What are they? The 9 types of sublime wholesome consciousness, the 9 types of sublime functional consciousness, and the 8 types of supramundane consciousness. These 26 types of consciousness are called sublime jivana. They maintain bodily posture. We have 4 postures, right? What are they? Standing, sitting, lying, and walking. These 26 types of sublime jivana produce or uphold and maintain bodily posture. This is why someone who practices meditation and gains jhana can sit for many hours or even many days without moving. It's because of the power of this jivana. It can maintain posture and let them sit for a very long time. Upon gaining enlightenment, the Buddha didn't eat anything for 49 days. How could he maintain his body and allow it to survive? Sublime jivana, which in his case was lokutara. Q. Is that why yogis can go without moving for a long time? Yes, right. Same thing. Q. So food is not needed? It includes that too. Some people can sit in meditation without moving for many hours or days. This is because of sublime jivana, which produces this bodily posture. They can walk for many hours too. Some people can display psychic powers too, such as flying through the sky. Or maybe they can dive into the earth and appear 198 analysis of matter somewhere else. Or perhaps they can walk on water. See? They can maintain their posture as they wish. This is because of the power of sublime jivana. It allows for what we might call abnormal bodily movement. Q. Do you have to have jhana to do this? Yes. You need to have jhana, or lokutara. Q. So if you get lokutara but don't have jhana, can you do it? Either one. For some people, there's no jhana, but they have sustained attainment of phala. In other words, they experience phala over and over for many days. So these 26 types of sublime jivana uphold or maintain, we might also say produce bodily postures. Also we have the 1 type of manodvaravajana, which is also called what? Mind door adverting consciousness. And we have the 29 types of kama jivana. What are they? They are the 12 types of unwholesome consciousness, the 1 type of smile-producing consciousness, the 8 types of sense-sphere beautiful wholesome consciousness, and the 8 types of functional consciousness. These 29 types of consciousness are called kama jivana. Plus, we have super-knowledge consciousness, which means the 5th jhana wholesome consciousness and functional consciousness. We call these 2 types of consciousness abhinya. How many types of consciousness did I just describe? 32. These 32 types of consciousness produce what we call bodily and vocal intimation, or vignati. What this also means is that 75 types of consciousness produce ordinary rupa, born of citta. However, the 26 types of sublime jhana produce ordinary rupa, born of citta and bodily posture. And the 32 types I just described produce rupa, bodily posture, and vignati. Next, we also have 13 pleasurable jhana. These include 4 types of unwholesome consciousness, the 1 type of smile-producing consciousness, 4 types of sense sphere beautiful consciousness, and 4 types of functional consciousness. These 13 types of consciousness are pleasurable jhana. These jhana produce smiles and laughter. When you laugh or smile, it's because of one of these 13 types of consciousness. 199. Las Vegas, Sayadaw. Not everyone can experience all 13 of these types of consciousness. For example, Puthajjana can experience just 8 of them. What are they? Unwholesome consciousness. See? If we see a sensual object, for example, and are happy about it, then there is unwholesome consciousness. On the other hand, if we are happy about doing something meritorious, then it's kusala, right? That includes the 4 types of sense sphere beautiful consciousness. So worldlings can experience just 8 of the 13 types of pleasurable jhana. What about stream enterers, once returners, and non-returners? They don't have wrong view, so we can subtract 2 types of consciousness. The remaining 6 types of pleasurable jhana produce smiles for Sikha. So what about Buddhas and Arahants? How many for them? 5. These 5 include the 1 type of smile-producing consciousness and the 4 kinds of sense sphere functional consciousness. Some people believe that a Buddha can only have 4 because smile-producing consciousness is ahetuka and therefore not associated with wisdom. But common opinion is that both Buddhas and Arahants can have 5. Even a Buddha can experience smile-producing consciousness. These 13 types of consciousness can produce matter, maintain bodily posture, produce bodily and vocal intimation, and can produce smiles or laughter. They can produce these 4. Understand that? So, how many types of consciousness produce matter? Normally we say 75 types. Among these 75 types, the 26 types of sublime jhana produce bodily posture too. This means that they produce 2, matter and bodily posture. For the group of 32 types, the 1 type of manodvarava jhana, the 29 types of kama jhana, and the 2 types of superknowledge, they can produce 3, rupa, bodily posture, and vignati. The 13 types of pleasurable kama jhana can produce 4, right? What are they? Matter, bodily posture, vignati, and smiling/laughter. Q. With the group of 32 types, can they produce any superpowers? Can they mentally communicate? This is more powerful. Among the group of 26 types of sublime jhana, there is 5th jhana, right? But sublime jhana can only produce matter and bodily posture. They cannot produce vignati. But superknowledge consciousness can produce vignati. 200 analysis of matter. We can gain jhana, but not necessarily have superknowledge, right? So ordinary 5th form sphere jhana can produce only 2, matter and bodily posture. There are 14 types of consciousness that cannot produce matter. Why? We need to know this. The 4 types of formless sphere resultant consciousness cannot produce matter. Why is that? It is because we have practiced meditation, in which we have developed non-attachment to matter. These beings do not want to have matter. They have no attachment to rupa. Q. Does that mean that they're not producing kama either? No, that's not what it means. Kama is satana, right? When formless sphere resultant consciousness arises, Satana is associated with it. But the Kama associated with this consciousness cannot produce any rupa, because they have developed non-attachment to rupa. They don't want it. According to their bhavana, their desire after death was to be reborn in the formless realm. That's why this consciousness cannot produce any rupa or matter. The 5 sense impressions also cannot produce rupa. Why? It is because these 10 types of consciousness are not associated with factors of jhana. None of them are associated with this consciousness. Remember initial application and sustained application. None of these 10 types of consciousness have these factors. Because they don't associate with the factors of jhana, they lack the potential to produce rupa. It's just too weak. That's the reason. What about patisandhi, or relinking consciousness? Relinking consciousness cannot produce rupa either. Why? Because this mind is a newcomer in life, right? It's very weak, so it can't produce any rupa. From the first moment of life continuum, that's when rupa is produced. But at the moment of patisandhi, the mind cannot produce rupa. Patisandhi cannot produce any rupa. Also, the death consciousness of an arahant cannot produce any rupa. Why? Can an arahant be reborn again? No. The death consciousness of any arahant cannot produce any rupa. So if anyone asks you what types of consciousness cannot produce rupa, the answer is the 4 types of formless sphere resultant consciousness, the 10 types of sense impression consciousness, and all 201 Las Vegas Sayadaw rebirth consciousness, and the death consciousness of an arahant. None of these can produce rupa. Q. So the death consciousness of a no-RMAL person can produce rupa? Yes, our death consciousness can arise and disappear and produce another life. Perhaps we'll be reborn as a human being, a dog, or an angel. But for arahants, no more. Okay, so we've been talking about consciousness as a cause for material phenomena. Let's look at the 4 types of lobha mula somanasa. This is unwholesome consciousness accompanied by pleasurable feeling. These produce rupa born of citta and iryapatha, or bodily posture. They also produce vinyanyati, or media of communication, bodily or vocal intimation, and hasana, smiling/laughter. They can produce these 4. We could spend a lot of time exploring examples here, but let me just share a few quick ones. The 4 types of lobha mula somanasa can produce rupa born of chitta. Lobha is attachment, right? When you want something, perhaps you want to steal something, you may act and actually try to take it, right? This movement comes from the mind. This is rupa born of chitta. You do something because of lobha. As for iryapatha, bodily posture, you can sit for many hours and watch a movie or television if you really like it, right? This isn't only for jhana, right? You might be able to sit the entire night. This is iryapatha, see? Or perhaps there's something you want, so you walk over to retrieve it. I want something, and so this lobha pushes you and produces the walking posture. On the other hand, if you're lazy, I don't want to do anything, this is lobha too. You may be enjoying sleeping, right? You might stay in this posture for 10 hours. Can you see how these postures, standing, sitting, lying, and walking, are impacted by lobha mula somanasa? With respect to hasana, perhaps you are happy about some sensual object, maybe a color, a sound, an odor, or a taste. This is very delicious, and then you smile, right? This is hasana, and it is because of lobha. And there's also vinyati because of lobha. You want something, and so you say, oh, please give it to me. Or, even if you don't say anything, you might motion with your hands to express your desire, or 202 analysis of matter intentions. This is lobha. Even without moving your body at all, you might simply say what you want. This is vocal intimation, right? Can you see how lobha can produce vinyanyati too? So these 4 types of consciousness can produce these 4. See? These are just a few examples. We could spend a few weeks exploring this in detail. Next, let's look at lobha mula upeka, or indifferent feeling. We have 4 of these types of consciousness. Right? What do they produce? They produce rupa born of chitta, or chittaija, iryapatha, and vinyati. How about smiling? No, they don't want to smile because there is upeka. It's becoming very easy to understand this now, right? We have 2 types of dosa mula. What do these produce? They produce rupa, born of chitta. For example, when we get angry, we might use a stick to hit someone, right? You do this because your mind wants you to. Because of this dosa, your eyes, mouth, or face may change to a display of your anger. This is rupa, born of chitta. The 2 types of dosa mula also produce idyapatha. Have you ever been so mad that you couldn't sit still and you needed to walk around? Or maybe you were very angry and thought, I'm so mad that I just want to lie here and sleep. See how you lie down because of your anger. Maybe you can see now how any posture can be produced by dosa. Dosa mula can also produce a vinyati. When you're angry, you might not say anything but might gesture in a way that makes your anger known. Or perhaps you use verbal actions to say angry things. The recipient will know right away that you're angry. What about hasana? Can you smile when you're angry? No, you're not smiling when you're angry. And how about the 2 types of moha mula? This is doubt consciousness and restlessness consciousness. These 2 can also produce 3, rupa born of chitta, iryapatha, and vinyati. They can produce the same 3 as dosa mula. What do the 10 types of pancaviññāna, sense impression consciousness, produce? Nothing. They can't produce rupa born of chitta because seeing, as an example, is just seeing. And hearing is just ear consciousness. Ear consciousness cannot produce rupa born of citta, nor can it produce any posture, vinyati, or smiling. It can't produce anything. Now, let's look at the 2 types of sampatichana, or receiving consciousness. What do they produce? Only rupa born of citta. 203. Las Vegas Sayadaw. With each of the 75 types of consciousness we've been talking about, rupa is produced in every moment of arising. This is happening even if we can't see it, even if you're unsure, it's still happening. If matter wasn't being produced with each arising of these citta, the body wouldn't have survived until now. We also have 3 types of santirana. What are they? Investigating consciousness. These can produce rupa, born of citta only. A visible object appears to the eye, for example, and as you see it, a thought process produces rupa. Remember, even if we can't see it happening, consciousness produces rupa, except for the 14 types of consciousness we talked about. We have 1 type of panyadvaravajana, which also produces rupa born of chitta. Manadvaravajana consists of 32 types of consciousness. What do they produce? Rupa born of chitta, iryapatha, and viññāti. What does smile-producing consciousness produce? 4. Rupa born of chitta, bodily posture, media of communication, and smiling. Kamavakura kusala somanasa produces the same 4, right? Kamavakura kusala upeka produces 3. No smiling, right? What about Kamavakura vipaka, or the 8 types of great resultant consciousness? They can only produce rupa born of citta. What are the functions of these types of consciousness? Patisandhi, bhavanga, kuti, and tadaramana. Even when we're asleep, there's bhavanga. Right at the moment that each bhavanga arises, rupa is being produced. Kamavachara kiriya somanasa can produce 4. Rupa born of chitta, iryapatha, viññāti, and hasana. Kamavachara kiriya upekha can produce only 3, as there's no smiling. And what about the 5 types of rupavakara kusala? These 5 types of form-sphere wholesome consciousness produce rupa born of chitta and bodily posture, just these 2. We already talked about the 26 sublime jivana, right? As for Rupavakara Vipaka, these 5 types of form-sphere resultant consciousness can only produce matter. The consciousness of a person dying while in Jhana will produce Rupa in the Brahma world. See, there's Rupa born of Citta in the Brahma world too. Okay, what about Rupavachara? What do they produce? Rupa born of Citta and Idiapatha. It's the same for Arupavachara Kusala. But Arupavachara Vipaka, the 4 types of formless sphere resultant consciousness, cannot produce anything. Yet the 2 types of Arupavachara Kirya can produce Rupa born of Citta and Idiapatha. 204. Analysis of matter. How about the 8 types of Lokutara or supramundane consciousness? This is part of the 26 types of sublime Jivana, right? So they can produce Rupa born of Chitta and Idiapatha. What about Abhinya Chitta? What do the 2 types of superknowledge consciousness produce? They produce Rupa born of Chitta, Idiapatha, and Vinyati, bodily and vocal intimation. Q. I understand why Arupavachara Vipaka cannot produce any Rupa, but can you please help me understand how Arupavachara Kusala and Arupavachara Kirya can produce Rupa born of Chitta and Idiapatha? Our Upavachara Vipaka Chittas are rebirth consciousness of the formless sphere. That's why they cannot produce any Rupa. Our Upavachara Kusala and Arupavachara Kirya can produce Rupa for those who gain Arupajana in the Kama world or Rupa world, but not for those who are formless beings in the Arupa world. What types of consciousness produce only Chittaja, Rupa born of Kita? There are 3 types of Manodhatu, or mind element. What are they? Pankadvaravajana, 5 sense door adverting consciousness, and the 2 types of receiving consciousness. These 3 types of consciousness are called Manodhatu, or mind element. Plus, there are 11 types of consciousness that we call Tadaramana. These include the 3 types of Santirana, investigating consciousness, and the 8 types of great resultant consciousness. These 11 types of consciousness are called Tadaramana. We also have the 5 types of Rupavakara Vipaka, or form sphere resultant consciousness. Altogether, that's 19 types of consciousness. These 19 can only produce ordinary Rupa born of Citta. The 26 types of sublime Jivana can produce Rupa born of Citta and Idiapatha, right? The 32 types of consciousness can produce Rupa born of Citta, Idiapatha, and Vinyati. And the 13 types of consciousness can produce Rupa born of Citta, Idiapatha, Vinyati, and Hasana. We need to remember all of the types of consciousness, all of the mental factors, and all 28 types of material properties. If we remember their names and natures, then it's very easy moving forward. We've now finished talking about Rupa arising from mind. Now we'll start talking about matter arising from UTU, or seasonal condition, temperature. 205 Las Vegas Sayadaw UTU. We have the Tejo element, or fire element. Even though we call it fire, it has its opposite, right? Here, fire has both cold and heat. These cold and heat produce internal and external material phenomena on reaching its static stage. Tejo element is one kind of matter, right? So when does fire element produce other Rupa? There are 3 minor instances, right? Fire element produces other Rupa at static stage. At that time, it produces Rupa. The Rupa can be internal or external. Let's say we plant a tree. The climate, the seasonal condition, the fire element makes it grow, right? This is external matter. But it's the same for internal matter. We need heat or cold in our body too. It must be balanced. This produces matter. So seasonal condition produces external and internal material phenomena on reaching its static stage. Q. Does that mean that it's strongest then? Yes. That's its strongest time. This is matter's strongest time. For mind, on the other hand, it is the arising moment. We can also call static development, presence, continuity, or continuation. We have arising, presence, and disappearance, right? It's the same for every body and mind. There's arising, static, presence, or continuation, and cessation, dissolution. You can use any of these terms. The Pali word for static is thiti, so we have upada, thiti, and bhanga. Now, we'll go to ahara. This concerns matter arising from ahara, or food. Uhara, food, here, is nutritive essence. At what time does it produce rupa? During assimilation on reaching its static stage. I'll elaborate. With regard to food, we have internal nutritive essence and external nutritive essence. Internal nutritive essence must have aid from external nutritive essence for matter to be produced. Lacking external nutritive essence, internal nutritive essence cannot produce matter. In other words, the external things we eat each day meet with internal 206 analysis of matter, nutritive essence, and then become static. At that time, matter is produced. Q. Babies eat, and it's amazing how they grow and grow so quickly from food. But grown-ups seem to merely sustain themselves on food. Is that because of the static stage? No. In our body, we have oja. Oja refers to nutritive essence in our body. A baby in a mother's womb depends on the mom's food. The external nutritive essence she takes in is then mixed with internal nutritive essence, enters the static moment, and is diffused in the body. The baby, as a result, survives and grows. So mere internal nutritive essence cannot produce matter. It needs support from external nutritive essence to produce matter. Rupa arises when oja is diffused in the body. At that time, matter will arise. Q. So ahara transforms into oja, and then oja is what goes through the body. Yes, oja and food or nutritive essence are the same. After you eat something, it goes to the stomach, then diffuses into the body and produces matter. Q. May I ask a somewhat unrelated question about something I've been pondering concerning cetasika and nibbana? A number of weeks ago, I think you said that when an enlightened being takes nibbana as an object, there is no Vedana or Citta. If there's neither, then it's not one of the 121 types of consciousness, right? Vedana is a universal mental factor that associates with all types of consciousness, right? Phalatita, Vedana, and so on are always arising. Q. Then what is the object taken for a being with Phala Citta? Nibbana, supreme bliss, is the object of Phala Citta. Q. How does a being with Phala Citta transition to taking Nibbana as an object? 207 Las Vegas Sayadaw. By seeing the arising and vanishing of Nama-Rupa, in the end, Phala Citta arises and takes Nibbana as an object. Q. Okay, thank you. How does a being emerge from taking Nibbana as an object and resume normal Citta? Normally, for an arahant, Mahakirya Tita arises and takes Nama-Rupa as an object, as usual. For other nobles ones, Mahakusala Tita arises and takes Nama-Rupa as an object as well. So, these four causes we've been talking about produce matter, right, in four ways. Here, we should know about Kamaja Rupa, or Rupa born of Kama. How many are there? We have 28 types of material properties, right? What kinds of matter arise from what? Kamaja Rupa means Rupa born of Kama. How many of these are there? There are 18 of these. What are they? First, we have the 8 that are inseparable. What are those? The 4 great essentials, plus color, odor, taste, and nutritive essence. These 8 cannot be separated. Even protons, neutrons, and electrons have these 8 kinds of matter. They are inseparable. Plus, there's space, the heart, and the 8 controlling faculties. What are these 8? These include eye sensitivity, ear sensitivity, nose sensitivity, tongue sensitivity, body sensitivity, sex and vitality. We have femininity and masculinity, right? So these two sex faculties and vitality, plus the 5 sensitivities, make the 8 types of controlling faculties. Altogether, that's 18 types of material properties that are born of kama. Please note that among these 18 types, the heart and the 8 controlling faculties, these 9 types, are born of kama only. This means that they do not arise from the mind, utu, or ahara. Instead, they arise only from kama. In other words, your heart depends on your kama. Likewise, our eye sensitivity, ear sensitivity, nose sensitivity, tongue sensitivity, body sensitivity, male or female, and our vitality arise because of our kama. This is why our eyes, ears, noses, tongues, bodies, lives, hearts, and genders are different. It is because they are produced by kama. Next, Chitidya is rupa born of chitta, right? How many rupa are produced by mind? 15. What are they? They are the mutable 5, which include the 2 media of communication, lahuta, mudita, and 208 analysis of matter kamanata, as well as sound, the inseparable 8 and space. These 15 are born of citta. These material properties arise because of our mind, or consciousness. Among these 15 types, we should make special note that the 2 intimations are born only of mind. What about utuja, or rupa, born of temperature? These include sound, lahuta, mudita, kamanata, the inseparable 8, and space, which totals 13 types. These 13 types of material properties are born of UTU, or temperature/seasonal condition. Now, let's look more closely at sound. When we talked about Sitaja Rupa and Utuja Rupa, they both have sound, right? That's because sound is born of mind and temperature. I'll explain. When I say something, that sound you hear is born of my mind, right? The mind produced the sound. And when someone laughs, you hear the laugh. That sound is mind-born, right? It comes from the mind. If a baby cries or someone sings a song, we hear it. Where do these sounds come from? Mind. These are vocal sounds coming from the mind. As for UTU, you may hear thunder during the rainy season. This is UTU, right? It's not mind. We hear thunder because of temperature. In the same way, when we hear someone playing music or listen to the radio or television, these sounds aren't from mind. No, they're from UTU, or temperature. Sometimes we hear a plane, a car, a train, a door, or even a tree, right? All of these sounds are from UTU. So we have 2 kinds of sounds. That's why we say that sound is born of mind and temperature. This a special one. And what about aharaja, or rupa, born of nutritive essence? This includes lightness, softness, and adaptability, as well as the inseparable 8 and space. Altogether, that's 12 types of material properties born of ahara. Let's look more closely at lightness, softness, and adaptability. These 3 kinds of material properties arise from mind, seasonal condition, temperature, and food. They have 3 causes. What does mind mean? Sometimes our body feels light, right? Lightness, softness, and adaptability arise when our mind is clear. When our mind isn't clear, we feel very heavy and don't want to do anything, right? But if our mind is clear, we want to do everything. So mind produces lightness, softness, and adaptability. When the weather is pleasant, your body feels light and you're ready to do everything, right? But when it's not good, you don't want a 209 Las Vegas say a dog go outside. You just want to sleep, right? So when the weather is pleasant, this UTU temperature produces lightness, softness, and adaptability. Food also produces lightness, softness, and adaptability. When you eat too much, you feel heavy and want to sleep, right? But when you have a light and pleasant vegetarian meal, Your body feels light. Have you ever eaten beef and felt heavy and lethargic afterward? Can you see how mind, temperature, and food produce lightness, softness, and adaptability? Let's look now at the inseparable 8 and space. Kamaja produces them, as does Chitaja, Utuja, and Aharaja. So what's this mean? It means that the inseparable 8 and space, these 9 types of material properties, have 4 causes. These 9 types arise because of Kama, because of Sitta, because of Utu, and because of Ahara. See that, right? Rupa has just one cause. What is it? Kama. The heart and the 8 controlling faculties have just one cause. They are born of Kama. How about Vinyati? It has just one cause, too. It is born only of mind. What has 2 causes? Sound, mind, and temperature. Right? What about 3 causes? Lightness, softness, and adaptability. These 3 types of material properties arise from mind, temperature, and food. From how many causes do the inseparable 8 and space, these 9 types, arise? 4 causes. Okay, in detail, how many types of matter are there? 28. Among them, the 4 Lakkhana Rupa are not caused by anything, right? They are common to all, as there is no Rupa devoid of the 3 instances of birth, decay, and death. This means that there is production, continuity, decay, and impermanence. These 4 do not have a cause. They are not produced by Kama, mind, Utu, or food. This is because every Rupa has these characteristics, right? Every matter has these characteristics. Q. What does Lakkhana mean? Lakkhana means characteristic or mark. So this means that every matter has birth, decay, and death. We can call it Upada, Thiti, and Bhanga, right? These are their characteristics. But we cannot say that these characteristics arise from Kama, Sitta, Utu, or Ahara. These are simply their characteristics. It's their nature. 210, Analysis of Matter. So we have 24 types of Upadarupa, or dependent matter, right? And we have the 4 great essentials. Altogether, that's 28 types of material properties. Now we go to the 21 material groups, 211.